I would say I'm thankful to no longer be making $8 an hour. So,
You mean you got a raise?
yeah,
How did you do that?
All right.
and so
8:59. That's great.
yeah, right.
Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Behind the Screens podcast featuring background screening pros. And today we have three special guests. We have three guests who are longtime veterans of the background screening industry. I call this the Veterans Panel. These are folks that represent the backbone of the background industry. These are the folks that make it go, that runs the engine, make sure the trains are on time, et cetera, et cetera. And what's really interesting to me about it is they have lots of history, lots of insights. They knew back then what was happening. They know now what's happening. I think they probably have a pretty good idea what will happen in the future. So happy to have on today's panel, Mr. Matt O'Connor, Wanda Hess, and Rory Bogdon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here on Behind the Screens.
Thank you for having us, Les. Thank you.
My pleasure. So let me ask you first, where are you talking to us from today? We'll pick on Matt first, and then Rory, and then Wanda. Where are you speaking to us today, Matt?
Wes, I am coming at you live from Indian Land, South Carolina, which is basically a suburb just south of Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right. Well, we got to love North Carolina, love Charlotte. And Rory, where are you talking from?
I am in my office in a small town called Mexico, New York, which is north of Syracuse, almost to Canada. So out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much.
So you live on the Mexican-Canadian border.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know there was one. Right. So anyway, no political jokes, but there's some joke there. I can't quite pull it out of my head. And Wanda, where are you
There's
talking
some
to us
content
from?
in there for sure.
I am talking to you from Winchester, Virginia. I'm in Northern Virginia, right outside of D.C. Not sure it's a great place to be at today, but that's where I am. And I've been born and raised my whole life here in Virginia. So.
All right. Well, always something happening in Virginia, and
Well, I'm right outside of D.C. Virginia's fine. It was D.C. that had the issues over the weekend.
If it wasn't for D.C., Virginia would be Northern Virginia
That's
would be a
right,
great
that's
place.
right.
That's right,
That's
exactly. All right. So let's for folks that may not know you or talk with you recently, let's talk about current roles. We'll start with Roy. Roy, tell us about your current position. What do you do? What do you like about it? If there's something you don't like about it, don't share that. But what is it? What do you folks are currently doing?
Yeah. Currently, I work for PBSA as State and Local Government Relations Director. That is a long title that admittedly I came up with to say that I am in charge of tracking legislation at the state level to make sure there's nothing happening in that legislation that could harm the background screening industry. And I also work on issues related to public record access. And the two folks on this call with me, Wanda and Matt, help me in that capacity on the access subcommittee. But yeah, I kind of work on strategy and outreach and advocacy on behalf of the industry to make sure, as you mentioned up at the top, the wheels keep moving for us.
All right.
Yeah.
And I know on the access issue that the three of you, this is not the first time you've been on a panel together. The three of you presented on access at a PBSA conference, as I recall being told, correct? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay. And Wanda, what are you currently up to these days?
I am founder and owner of Iprotech Screening, and I run the company. I'm the CEO here. I run the company, and as a company owner, as you know, Les, you wear lots and lots of hats. So I'm doing a little bit of everything, juggling a lot of balls these days, but just running the company and just really, I've been doing this for almost 28 years now. So the work and what we do is the easy part. It's all the other administrative bullcrap you got to deal with. That's the hard part. But mostly, like running the company, making sure our processes are in place. We're aligned with the right partners in the field. We're introducing the right products when it's the right time to introduce the right products, that type of thing. So a little bit of everything. Yeah.
And Matt, I feel I should ask you, what don't you do instead of what you do, but what are you doing these days?
I do sometimes wear multiple hats myself, but I'm a vice president of operations at First Advantage. Been with the company since prior acquisition in 2013. And in my current role, I oversee what we call consumer affairs, a broad term for things related to disputes and reinvestigations, things related to FCRA compliance, and other types of escalations and situations that involve background reports and consumers who engage with First Advantage.
Okay. Well, we've certainly got a diverse amount of experience here, and I think it's always interesting to find about people's careers paths. So I'll just randomly ask Wanda to start this one. How did you get from point A to whatever point you're at now, point A to B or A to Z? Well, tell us about your career path.
Les, it's been a very long journey, but it's been a good one. It's been a very, very good one. I actually started at a CRA, a company called American Background, and that was 28 years ago or so. And I was started as their fax clerk, making $8.50 an hour. However, it was my foot in the door. That was actually a real job back then because you guys remember faxes, right? Faxes were a thing. And it was like the manual fax, not where you can automatically do it now on your computer. But I started as a fax clerk. And so when the verifications team would call for an employment verification or an education verification, many times they will say, fax me the signed release. So we had these huge filing cabinets with, paper applications because our clients had faxed their applications. I'm showing my age here, guys, sorry. But I would go find the file, hope the file was in the cabinet, to make a copy of the signed release, put the file back, and go back and manually fax for the verification. I did that for about 3 months and I was bored out of my mind. I'm like, y'all got to give me something else to do. So I ended up just, they allowed me to start doing some verification stuff and learning that. So I kind of got my start there. And then as I progressed further, I was able to go into like running the data entry team. That again was a thing when we had to actually data entry things ourselves, right? And then they asked me to run the verification team at one time, the customer service team at one time, the supplier management team at one time. So we got a lot of experience there in running teams. I think I ended on the customer service team, which I loved. American Background, ended up selling to Sterling, thanks Matt. So Sterling actually bought American Background, which now of course Sterling was bought by First Advantage. So they ended up buying the company. And so I ended up leaving, of course, there. And then I ended up somehow in the wholesale world where I was working with suppliers and what have you, working for wholesalers, supplying to CRAs, which was kind of a different role for me because I had to learn the different side of it. But it did help a lot from everything I've learned from over here. But to walk into that role, it's such a different experience, working in the wholesale side and actually learning how all these little tiny pieces work. So that was very interesting. That's where I spent a lot of my time. Actually, the people who owned American Background was owned by the Lowers, who also started Wholesale Screening Solutions. And they had called me up and said, hey, you want to come over and, talk to us? And I did. And long story short, I ended up going there and they hired me as their vendor manager. So I was doing that. And at that time, they were starting to build, they were new. I think, I was like employee number 10, 12, something like that, there at Wholesale Screening. So, but it was a great going into that, learning all of that, setting up their supplier network. So I did that for about 8 years. And then one day, Vince Pasquarella, which we all know and love, right? Vince. So Vince had come up to me and said, hey, you ever thought about doing sales? I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about if I want to do that. And at that time, I was worried about, what if I don't sell anything? What am I going to do? I need money, right? And so anyway, he ended up, I don't know what happened, but we were going to a PBSA conference. And Mark Lowers, one of the owners of Wholesale, said, "Hey, I want to talk to you at the conference." And I'm like, "Oh crap, what'd I do?" You know what I mean? What, when the big man calls you to talk, it's like, what did I do, right? So he wanted to talk to me about joining sales, and I told him my concerns about doing it. So we ended up talking a little bit more after that, and he made me a pretty nice offer, and I'm super, super thankful that I did join the sales team, and where I was able to actually learn more sides of it because it helped me learn like contract negotiation, pricing. We all love that, right? All of those different things, right? And I love talking to the people in the industry, so I was able to do that more. But I feel like going through all of that helped set me up to be able to start what I'm doing now. Wholesale and SJV merged. The two largest wholesalers ended up merging. This was probably 14, 15 years in or so at Wholesale. Them two ended up merging together and forming one company, which of course now is Inform Data. I was there for about 4 or 5 months, and I felt like, it just wasn't for me anymore. I was too old for it. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. But they were owned by a PE firm. I felt like with Wholesale, we really kind of captured a lot of magic there because we all got along so well. I think when we merged, we had close to 500 employees at that time. So we were really, really had taken off. So it was a different environment, different world. And I ended up leaving, and I had a short stint somewhere else. And then I ended up, quitting that job. And I ended up I was literally sitting in the seat right here. And I was like, gosh, what am I going to do? I knew I did not want to put my career in somebody else's hands anymore. So ended up said, you know what? After talking to some people in the industry and talking to some folks, like, why don't you do this? I'm like, okay. And I did, and I didn't look back. So it's probably good I didn't think too much about it. But I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, right?
So the rest is history, as they say.
That's right, Les. As you know, if they tell you everything you got to deal with, you might need to think a little bit more, right?
Well, you're one of those people. You're part of that rare breed who's done it all, been there, done it all, had all those experience where now people are more segregated. And thank you for sharing. Matt, what's been your career journey?
Well, my career journey sounds kind of similar to Wanda's, and she's got me beat, though. I started in the industry at $8 an hour. As Wanda, you topped me at 850, but I literally, one of the things I've shared with folks in the past that is kind of like your fax clerk role. I got into the industry literally by answering a want ad, a help wanted ad in the newspaper in the Tampa Bay area in late 1995. I don't even know if they still have help wanted sections in newspapers or who even buys the paper anymore, but
I don't think they have newspapers anymore.
yeah, exactly. But in any case, I answered an ad to be a background investigator and started with a small family-owned company in January of 1996. And I started obviously in the entry-level role, just doing public record checks in different states and counties by really any means necessary or means available. So working with vendors, working with court clerks and different sources, that small company ultimately sold the business to a company some of us will remember called ChoicePoint. ChoicePoint bought the company I started with in 1998. I started to work for ChoicePoint by way of that acquisition, relocated with ChoicePoint to the Atlanta area, and ChoicePoint later sold the business to LexisNexis in 2007 or 8, if I remember correctly. So I've now worked for 4 different companies without really ever applying for a job or changing companies. But ChoicePoint, like I said, sold the business to LexisNexis. I spent years working for LexisNexis in what then was called their screening solutions business. And then fast forward to 2013, and Lexis sold that screening solutions business to First Advantage. Right. I've been fortunate enough to weather multiple storms by way of acquisition. I'm still around, so hopefully that means I'm doing something right.
You and Wanda so far have both rode the acquisition surfort, right?
Yes.
We certainly have. With
honor, Les, with honor.
And that's sort of the nature of corporate America these days.
Yes.
Roy, how about you? What was your path to get from...
honestly, kind of similar to Matt's and Wanda's. And I just want to say, I don't think anyone goes I want to be a background screener when I grow up. There's maybe like 2 or 3 people I can think of that might have ever had that thought, but I think the rest of us kind of wound up here. In my case, I had gotten back from living and working in China with my wife. We were there 6 years. Got back to the States, and she got a job in Nashville. I didn't have a job in Nashville, so I went to a temp agency, and they were like, "We have this researcher job at a background check company." So that sounds interesting. Interviewed, and they were like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I said, like, cut the check. And then, yeah, I started doing operations research like Matt, learning about different states, and then just kind of worked my way up into supervisor and then management. This was at a company called HireRight, by the way, and worked there for some time, found my way into account management, which I did not like, and then ultimately left HireRight to go work at my first time at a kind of wholesaler as well, at a company called Securitech, which several acquisitions later is now part of Equifax. That was the job where as vendor manager, I got to really get engaged with PBSA, meet a bunch of people, then came back to HireRight to work on a project that morphed into me being vendor manager again over there. Then went back to a regional researcher for a short time, and then on to PBSA, what I'm doing now. So
that's so interesting. Between the three, First Advantage, HireRight, Sterling, and you all ended up in different ways, different acquisitions. I interviewed one person, I can't remember who it was now, who every time they left the job, went to a new place, that new job got bought by the same firm. They kept going back to the same acquirer. That's all right. So it must have been meant to be. And the only thing, Rory, you haven't shared with us, we have Matt at 8. We have Wanda at 8.
Oh, yeah. I started in 2013, so not as long. And I started at the princely sum of $12 an hour.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Wow. He's got us, Matt.
I don't know. Adjusted for inflation, Wanda, you might still be the winner. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thanks, class. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not. I'd have to figure this out. Well, these are very varied career paths, and so we really do have 3 veterans. And when I said we have a panel that understands the backbone of the background industry, you proved me right. I mean, you've all had these adventures, and really interesting. So here's the big question. You're all veterans. You've all, I can say, done it all, seen it all. I mean, top of mind, what is like a big global change that you've seen in the industry? Other than, everyone, AI or technology, sure, but anything other than that you've seen that really just strikes you? And Roy, it looks like you're ready to go, so I'll call on you first.
I was just going to say, and mine is technology related, but it is basically that I've seen, I think, a shift from humans really leading research and kind of company prioritizing really, human-led research that's supported by technology, to that really being turned on its head, to where I think now the focus is on getting good data and having good technology that is supported by humans to make sure it works. And I think that we're not unique in our industry, but certainly over the last decade, that's, to me, really been evident.
So we're becoming slaves of the robots. Oh, no. All right. Matt or Wanda, anything you want to add to that?
I would just like to add, to kind of jump on that too, with one more thing, is that, I think we have to be careful on how we're using AI with some of this. So I think you just can't, in our space especially, there's no uniformity, right? There's no uniformity at all. And so there's so many different things, and sometimes you really need a human to look at dockets or papers, what have you, to kind of read between the lines. No clerks do it all the same. They're always, they easily make misspellings or what have you. So I think we've got to be very careful on how much we are using AI in our space. I do like the point that it is assisted. You can assist with it, but I think you also need to make sure it's not, that's all you're doing. And the other thing that I would add, because we go way back to what we're doing, is that I've seen just the volume we're dealing with today is so much different than what we dealt with back in the day. Because I think back then a lot of people were doing background screenings to be in compliant. They had to, right? Their industry they were in, they had to run it. And now I think people really are looking for security, making sure their workplace is good, not just doing it to check a box. So I think that, that's kind of helped a lot of the volume growth. So on top of the obvious technology thing, I think it's worth noting that, our volume has definitely increased a lot because people really are doing it because they want to now versus they had to.
Well, by the way, I meant to interrupt you when you were telling your story about the files. That is, we've all lived through that, and you said you go looking for the file. And the thing that came to my brain, assuming the file was there, assuming the file wasn't at the social trace desk or at the criminal desk,
Right.
and not put back. All right.
That's right.
Hey, Matt, what about you? Have you been doing this since the days of newspaper one ads? All right.
Yeah.
What's sort of like a big global shift?
I think Rory and Wanda certainly raised some good points. I think, what I would add to that a little bit, most of my early career and right up until about 10 years ago, I spent in different roles related to public records and record access. So I think the evolution of how records are stored, where records are stored, how they're maintained has been cool to watch over the years and to follow. Obviously, going back to the days when I started, and much like Wanda was faxing, and we were faxing things to courthouses, we were accessing paper files, and so just again, somewhat on the technology track, but to watch the evolution of how criminal records and data became available in the now 30 years I've been doing this has been pretty remarkable. And I think it kind of touches a little bit on what Wanda said in terms of employers and end users. I think the other thing that comes to mind to me is that our customers, right, the end users and employers are a lot smarter about background screening now than they were a long time ago, right? And they ask the right questions, they're engaged. I think, to Wanda's point, in early stages of screening, it was a formality, it was a check the box compliance kind of issue. And now the conversations that I have with our customers, they're a lot more savvy, and they want to fully understand the process and how things work and where things work. So that's been an interesting change too, is really just the education and the intelligence of the end users growing.
Yeah. And they're also a lot more savvy about the second chance, fair chance, the fair use of criminal records and all that as well. Yeah. So we're going to do kind of a quick lightning round here. I always like to ask about mentors or early influencers, and we really want to keep to our time here. So whoever wants to kick in, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or a mention?
I'll go real quick. That's okay. So probably early on, I had an old boss. Her name was Jeanette Ashby. She's not in the industry anymore. She was fabulous, and not so much as about the industry, but just, mind you, I was making $850 being a fax clerk, right? So she helped, you really got and helped me learn the different sides of the industry, but not just industry, business, how to handle stuff, right, in business. So probably her. I actually mentioned a few earlier when I was talking with, there was the Lowers, of course, and then Vince, of course, helped me push me over into sales, which I think definitely helped project me into being able to do what I'm doing today. And then I think, as I was starting to do Iprotech, I had so many people I spoke with in the space, business owners already of CRAs and other people that's been around for so long, Gina Kessler, some others, Mike Roborka, some others that just really was pushed me, not so much of them to push me, but other people I'd spoken to that's been around for a very long time.
Well, thank you for sharing. And Matt, anyone you want to give a shout out to, the mentor or an influencer?
Yeah, sure. I think who comes to mind for me probably right out of the gate is my first boss in the industry, and some of you may know her. She's still in the industry, but Joan Grondin now, who's with iCover. Mm-hmm. She literally taught me probably everything I know about how and where to go search for records. She was my boss at Application Profiles in the late 90s, where I mentioned I started with that small company, and Teresa Pregg was her boss, and many of you know Teresa from PBSA days as well. So Joan and Teresa certainly taught me a lot, particularly as a young kid straight out of college. And like Rory mentioned earlier, I don't think any of us had initial aspirations of becoming a background screening expert, but here we are, or getting into that field, so to speak. And then probably another boss and mentor that comes to mind would be Rory Hess from my days at LexisNexis. And Eric's probably one who I spent most of my, as I mentioned, early days kind of in the weeds with public records, and he pulled me out of the weeds a bit and taught me to be a lot more focused and strategic, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's great. And Teresa, I haven't talked to her for a while, but she was a former chair of PBSA, and she was wonderful. Spent a lot of time with her in the past.
Certainly.
Oh, thank you.
And she's retired and hopefully spending lots of time with grandkids these days.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Rory, do you want to finish up this one?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks that have helped me along the way, but one I really wanted to make sure I'd call out is Kathleen Nottingham, and she was one of the first people that I had exposure to in leadership, in background screening. She was always very good at analyzing every angle of a problem and the outcomes potential solutions would have. And I like just such depth of knowledge of the industry and how things work. It was just really always impressive and kind of instilled in me to really make sure that when you're presented with an issue, you're trying to see it from every possible angle.
I think she was a guest on one of our podcasts, so it was wonderful talking to her. Well, thank you for sharing. One of the interesting things to talk about, particularly for folks who have seen it all and done it all, are an early lesson. Maybe just pick one that comes to top of mind, an early lesson that you learned in your career, business in general or background screening, that you've kept in mind and bears repeating so that listeners of this podcast might hear and think about it.
You know, probably the biggest thing I think is that I learned very early on, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. It's okay to ask a question. Don't be afraid to do that. Because a lot of people, especially for early starting out, you're scared to, you don't want to look dumb. You don't want to, sound like you're uneducated about it. And so you just don't ask a question. So it's okay to ask it. It's okay not to know the answer. It's not okay not to find the answer.
Right.
So I think I would just say knowledge is power. Just soak up as much as you can and ask.
Oh, great advice. Rory, do you have something that comes to mind?
Sure. Mine would be that bad news doesn't age well.
I love that.
I think that goes double if it's your fault. So I think, starting out, if you make a mistake, you kind of want to see if you can fix it yourself. And that's fine to a degree. But then if it's going to have an impact, especially in what we're doing, where it's literally a matter of someone getting a job or not, just if you know something's wrong, let people know. And that's the thing is don't fail alone, kind of goes in with that. Your team is there to help you, and it doesn't benefit anyone to try to, sweep things under the rug. It's better if, especially if it's your mistake, if you're the one to call it out versus being found out. Found that always went better.
There's a book there somewhere, Bad News Does Not Age Well, and it goes double if it's your mistake.
I like that.
So clearly someone needs to write that book. I love that.
Go ahead,
And
Rory.
Matt, what do you want to share with us?
Mine, I'd keep simple and say, question the process. Right? I think one of my least favorite things I've heard folks say over the years in different roles and with different companies is, when I ask, why are we doing it this way? That answer, well, that's always how we've done it. And I usually try to find ways to blow that up and go do things differently. Right? Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's the right way. It's not evolving, and things change in the industry like we've talked about. So again, I think the life lesson or professional lesson there for me is to always question the process.
And sometimes you can't even find who it was who created the process in the first place or why. That knowledge is a person is long gone. Right.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
You heard it here, folks. A good reason to listen to these podcasts. So all three of those are fantastic lessons. Well, all three of you obviously, have substantial business experience and skills and leadership skills, et cetera. And it sounds to me like you can probably be in any industry you wanted to, but you're all in background screening. What is it about background screening in particular that attracts you or that you enjoy? And why did you stay in this space when the skills you have are transferable to lots of spaces?
I would say what keeps me going and what's kept me in the industry is even 30 years in, I'm still constantly learning new things. The process has changed. Things like public record access that we mentioned, data collection and acquisition, all of those have continued to evolve over the years. And, somehow, like I said, even having done this for a long time, I find at least probably once a week, I'm still learning something new, which is always motivating and, has been enough to keep me here.
Oh, fantastic. And Wanda, the same question to you. So what do you like most about the screening industry? Why have you stayed?
Yeah, I think it's very much very similar to what Matt was saying. Other than the crazy stuff that we find, guys, every day, we find some crazy stuff, and sometimes it's head scratchers like, what is this career criminal doing? But I think it's true. It's always changing. I always said it's like trying to nail down a moving target. And even after all these years that we've had in here, you're still learning something new. And then the other thing that I would add to that is the people. The people are fabulous in this industry. And we've got some really great people here who are just so willing to help and just really be part of, regardless if you're a competitor or whatever you're doing, they're really willing to help. So the people make it really great. And that's why you want to stay too. And then you just never get bored. It's not a boring industry at all.
Never a dull moment.
No. No.
In the background screening world, never a dull moment. Great answers. And
Yeah.
Rory, what about you?
For me, I think I've been able to grow within the industry. There's a lot you can do in background screening. If it's vendor management, if it's operations, if it's sales, there's a lot of stuff you can explore. I also like that I kind of feel like as an industry, we're like the underdog. I always root for the underdog. I feel like we are constantly being attacked from many different angles, and we're here to sort of fight the good fight. And so that is always a motivator for me.
Yeah, we're fighting a good fight on behalf of employers, on behalf of applicants, on behalf of everybody. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people nipping on our heels for lots of different reasons. But we'll set them straight eventually, right?
Hopefully we're still here to see it, Les. Hopefully we're still here to see it.
We're going to go down swinging, that's for sure.
Exactly. All right. Well, with all the great career experience and lessons and advice that you have, I do like to ask people to think back and about a proud moment in their career. And obviously people don't like to brag, so don't want you to feel uncomfortable. But I think we all have, something we've accomplished professionally to at least brings a smile to our face, whatever it might be. And I was wondering for this panel what that might be for each of you. And you look back on and say, okay, yeah, I did that. That was very cool. I did that. Who wants to start? Wanda.
I think that for me, this is going to sound really weird, but leaving wholesale was tough. That was really hard, but I'm super proud that I had the guts to actually do it after being there so long and just feeling like such a big part of everything. And then just to actually leave with people that I loved was there. I built a lot of experience there. So it was very, very hard, but I was super proud of myself that I actually made that step and was able to say, look, this isn't working, so let me figure something else out. So I thought that was very brave, and I was super proud of that. And then, of course, starting Iprotech Screening, being a nationwide wholesaler provider to, the industry and what have you. Super proud of being able to launch that and have so much success so early on. And then also we're We Bank certified, Women Business Enterprise National Council. So, we're able to get that certification so early. So those are just a couple of things that I'm super proud of that I've been able to do in my career.
Congratulations. No, it's satisfying to take that leap of faith and leave the familiar and the behind and comfort and then succeed. So congratulations on all that. Very nicely done. Yeah. Matt, how about yourself?
Well, I think kudos to you, Wanda, first for taking that leap. That's a huge move.
You.
I don't think I would have had the courage to do that myself. But like I mentioned earlier, the fact that I've managed to stick around and transition from company to company as those mergers and acquisitions took place is, hopefully a testament to what I've been able to bring to the table in my career. I think more specifically, there's a couple things that come to mind. And, we talked about what motivates you in the industry. One of the things early on that is a little bit of a brag about moment was playing a role in pulling data and providing information. This goes back a ways, but at the time we didn't know what we were doing or who it pertained to, but we pulled a bunch of information and records and ultimately helped play a little small part in capturing the DC sniper back in 2002.
Oh, wow.
Holy moly.
So we did database searches and motor vehicle records and pulled a whole bunch of information. And at the time, like I mentioned, no one shared with us who those people we were looking up were or why they were asking. But, I saw on the news a day or two later that they had apprehended the two folks that, had been kind of wreaking havoc on the city of DC for almost a month. So that was a really cool experience and obviously helped demonstrate the value of what information and data can lead to when it's used for the right purposes. And then I think one other thing that comes to mind for me personally was just being involved, having an opportunity and being involved with a number of good folks from both the LexisNexis screening business and the current First Advantage company and helping to facilitate the sale of that Lexis business to First Advantage. There were, I think, about 25 or 30 of us folks from, like I mentioned, from both companies who were, in essence, locked down in a room for days on end and trying to figure out ways that would work and how it would work and what we needed to do to block and tackle to make that happen. So that was a cool experience and certainly something I'm proud of.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, the actual X's and O's are, are the critical things when it comes to that. So congratulations. Very cool.
Thank you.
Can I just add real quick? Thank you, Matt. With me being right out here at DC, I didn't realize you guys had part of the DC sniper thing. But I remember that, and people were scared to go get gas. I mean, right here, because they were in Virginia as well, as DC was in Virginia. And
Yeah.
people were literally scared to stop and get gas because they're afraid they're going to get shot. But so thank you for your help there.
Hey, of course. Glad to do it.
Yeah, that was a big national story. Yeah. And Rory, what about yourself? You're now in the heart of the screening industry because you're with the PBSA, Professional Background Screening Association. What would be yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd actually go further back in time to earlier in my career when at HireRight we had half of our staff on our old system that, basically they came over from an acquisition and needed to learn our new system and to migrate onto that. And I was able to use my experience in the classroom to create the training to essentially train an entire staff of people on a new system and get them up and running on it. And that kind of, I think, set me on track for leadership here. And that was really cool to do so early on. And, as you mentioned, like transfer some of my classroom skills over to background screening. That's neat. Also, I mean, any of the access issues that I've had a chance to work on, I can't claim credit for any of them really. I mean, but I've been a part of some pretty major ones like, regaining access to Michigan, date of birth, and tattletaling on the clerk in, Arkansas, that PBSA ultimately sued and won. So those are some neat things to be involved with.
That's great. And for those of you who have been in the industry long enough, one of the most traumatic things that can happen to a background firm is change of systems. And so we all know that, it's a significant accomplishment to train a team on a new system.
Yes.
And clients as well. So,
Yes.
Well, Rory, we're going to start the next one with you. We're going to talk about how PBSA has influenced your careers. And I know you've all presented at PBSA on different things, and we'll talk about that. Rory now works at PBSA and on the access matters you described. So what's been the role of PBSA in your career, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, obviously huge for me. There's folks, paying my salary at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I got involved in PBSA when I had initially left HireRight the first time and was working in vendor management. And one of my boss adjacent folks there thought it would be helpful for me to get more involved in PBSA. And I started just attending the access subcommittee calls. And then, went to my first conference, and it just really opened up, this whole new world that I didn't realize existed in background checks. Learning, just again, who are the researchers in this state and, how do the court systems work and all that stuff, be engaging with people in PBSA just really was helpful in expanding my horizons in terms of how things actually work. And being involved, in these issues is something I really enjoy. I mean, I think maybe not everybody likes arguing with court clerks, but I do. And so it's just been great, super supportive. Our team is small, but we have really great people on it. Melissa is an awesome boss. I think she does a great job with the association, and it's like a family reunion when you go to the conferences, right? So it's nice to be around people who know, what it is we're talking about with all this jargon we use all the time.
Shared experiences, shared trauma. I was on there right now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
And Wanda, how about yourself? You mentioned, I think you mentioned you've gone to PBSA. I know you and Matt and Rory have all presented. What's been the impact of PBSA in your career?
I think for me, PBSA obviously has helped me stay in the know, like the knowledge that you get from it. Just going and the people and talking to everybody, being able to be a co-chair. I started as a co-chair at the provider committee, and then now I'm, of course, the co-chair with Matt, with the Government Relations Access Committee with Rory. And so I think it's just been the knowledge that you get and you gain from going and talking the industry. Like Rory kind of pointed out, you go and everybody's talking the jargon that you're talking about and they get it, right? They understand what you're saying. And so I think it's just being around the people. It definitely helps me stay in the know. And being on the access committee actually forces me to be, hands-on with this. And I'm definitely a hands-on learner. I got to get in and dig in and figure it out. You preach to me all you want, but I got to get in and do it. And so being able to do it helps me learn. So I think just the education that we've been able to get from the conference is totally invaluable for anybody in this space. And if you're not part of PBSA, you really should be, to just be able to, just even if you don't go to any sessions, just talk to the people, see what's happening. If it's not your thing, just talk to some folks. And so you definitely learn a lot from each other.
Fantastic. And Matt, how about yourself? I know you're involved and you go. What's been your experience?
Yeah, I think, admittedly, I've been a PBSA member for a long time, probably in the 20-year range. But admittedly, the first 10 years or so, not that actively engaged, right? I'd show up and go to sessions. And, I think 10 years or so ago, I don't know what changed or why the light bulb went off, but it dawned on me that, I can learn a lot from other members and folks who are attending, right? Whether that's the conferences, whether that's the access committee and the members who participate and bring issues to the table there. To me, Wanda said it earlier, really, the people in our industry are awesome. I truly believe that. And I feel like in the last 10 years or so, when I've been a more active, engaged member, I've gotten an opportunity, to learn from folks, to share information. In some cases, we've obviously got CRAs, we've got providers, we've got all different kinds of members, and nobody's afraid to share information. We're, of course, not talking about the secret sauce, so to speak, of how everybody does everything behind the scenes, but everyone's willing to share information. Everybody, for the most part, is, here for the same purpose and same means. And I like what Rory said. To an extent, it's a family reunion when we're all able to get back together.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing. The one thing that came to mind, Matt, when you were talking is that I'm not sure in our industry there is much secret sauce. I mean, it's all right. I mean, no one has anything. If someone comes out with something new, someone else comes out with it. But at any rate, I appreciate that. Well, we're winding down towards the end, and we're going to pivot away. As much fun it is to talk about background screening, we're going to leave that particular topic, and we're going to go to non-background screening. A couple of quick questions, and we'll have to do this as a bit of a speed round, but want to make sure we get everything in. What do you guys do when you're not background screening? I mean, I assume you have lives beyond background screening, so a hobby or an interest or things you like to do for fun when you're not doing all the things we talked about for the first part of this show. Who wants to start?
What does that mean,
please.
Les? I don't understand. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. Who has a
yeah,
life outside this, right?
right.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, really. Like, what? No. Free time? What?
What does that mean? I think for me, just a couple things real quickly is that, I'm that annoying person who's up before the crack of dawn, right? And trying to get it, my workout in and get my time in the beginning, to get it done. Because if you don't get it done, you won't get it done. So I'm kind of that annoying person who's up super early, early bird, right? Gets the worm. So I'm that person who does that. But other than that, we live in a small community. Me and my husband love to go. We have a lot of friends, entertain, go to dinners. We have a lot of wineries and breweries here, lots of mountains, so it's just beautiful in some of the areas here in Virginia, especially in the fall. Virginia has got to be the prettiest state in the fall. In the fall, it's beautiful here, just the different colors of the leaves and stuff. And then just traveling. We love to travel and especially go to like tropical islands, especially when it's cold here. We like to travel a lot. So that's kind of my thing when you find time to do those.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's lots of fun. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I would say I'm thankful to no longer be making $8 an hour. So I can afford to travel a little bit these days as well. And
you mean you got a raise?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
$8.59. That's great.
Yeah, right. So certainly travel is probably the first thing that comes to mind. My wife and I love to to just go check out different places and, try to disconnect and get away for a bit. And I think probably the other biggest obsession of mine is almost anything and everything sports related. I'm a huge sports fan and of just about anything involving a ball or a net and I'm a born and raised New England guy. So we'll leave it at that. We had a heck of a run in New England with titles and teams. So I've enjoyed that. And coincidentally, my wife and I met in Atlanta in the industry, but we both grew up in Massachusetts. So we at least on a positive note there, we share the same loyalty to New England sports teams and enjoy watching those.
So the Patriots and the Sox and the Bruins, huh?
You got it. Yeah. And don't forget the Celtics.
Oh God, how can I forget that? Well, I'm from LA, so I can easily forget the Celtics, but
Fair
not
enough.
a problem at all. All right. And Roy, what about yourself? What do you do for fun and games?
Yeah, I'm a music nerd. I'm obsessive with finding new music. I am a record collector. I think I've amassed over 500 at this point and growing. I think like anyone who hits 40, you start bird watching. Enjoy that.
Oh yeah, every 40-year-old I know bird watches.
Right?
You're right.
So that's been good. Like a lot of watching movies and TV comedies. Yeah, into the entertainment. I like Matt, if he's big on stats with athletes, I'm that way with, musicians, I guess.
So you're a vinyl guy then?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that, Roy.
Yeah, actually, when we were at mid-year, another member, Kevin Newdecker, he took us out. He's like, "Hey, let's go record shopping," and we're like, "All right, let's do it."
All right, you were.
Conference
Love
hall.
it. Love it.
Oh, it's like me at an all-you-can-eat buffet as you at a record shop. Well, before we conclude with a couple final questions, one of the things you got to do if you're on this podcast is you got to share a fun fact. And the definition of a fun fact is once it's revealed, you will be mercifully teased about it at your next PBSA conference. All right. So who wants to be the first to drop the screen and reveal a fun fact that no one knows or suspects that has not heretofore been revealed? Do I see volunteers? All right,
Okay.
Rory, I either you had an itch or you raise your hand, but I'm calling you anyway.
It's fine. Yeah, I already let it loose about the China thing. I think some folks know that already, but what maybe people don't know about me is that, and this is going on 20 years ago now, but I used to be a rock and roller. I was in several bands. I was in a ska band in high school and then an emo band, and we got picked up on a little tiny label and then some other projects, including a B-52's cover band. This is all out there somewhere on the internet. I'm not giving any more info than that, but yeah, had a pretty rock and roll full past life before screening.
Well, if you can find Rory's band on the internet, and I would invite you to put it on the LinkedIn, right? Or give Rory the chance to buy you dinner in order to bribe you. One of the two.
That's right. Just bring a record. Just bring him a record.
So that's the challenge. Find Rory. Where's Rory on the internet? I got to see some of these rock and roll motifs.
Yeah.
Wanda or Matt, who wants to? Wanda,
I'll go. I hate to go after that though. I mean, I have not been I've not been in any cool rock and roll bands. I mean, I'm totally unmusically inclined. I love to sing, but my husband hates to hear me sing, so that's a problem, right? So I'm so terrible at it. But I think, for me, my fun thing, it's not as cool as what Rory did, but it's kind of funny. It almost led me up to what I'm doing. One, I'm a super neat freak. I mean, that's just, everything's got to be in order. And it drives people around me nuts because I'm like, your shoes are messed up. You know what I mean? I'm a super neat freak. But the funny thing I have is it's a story, actually, of when I was probably 14 or 15 years old. We had a store at the end of our subdivision. It was called Highs. It's like a 7-Eleven, that type of thing, of where I lived at. And so it's a convenience store. So our parents had went out, and my girlfriend had lived beside me, and she's like, "Hey, let's walk up to the store." I'm like, "We're not supposed to leave, but okay, let's go." So we walk up to the Highs, right? And back then, keep in mind, it's been a long time ago. Remember the Pac-Mans that come out, the Pac-Man machines? So we go in, and there's a Pac-Man machine in there, and we just wanted to go play the Pac-Man machine. So we took all this change as quarters. We were playing Pac-Man. Well, this man walks in, and he has a ski mask. And we're like, "It's not that cold outside. What's he doing?" He's there to rob the place. So he goes up with a gun. He produces a gun. He's robbing the store. I look at her. I'm like, "Oh, crap. We took off running out the store. So we're running down the street. It's in the suburb. We're running back down the street. We heard this boom behind us. He's coming out of the store running behind us. So now we're running down the street from this robber guy, right? We go up to this door like, oh my God, we're freaking out. We're just these two little teenagers who wasn't supposed to leave the house. Now we're in the middle of a robbery being chased by a gunman. So we go up to this door and we're banging on this door. Nobody comes to the door. We're like, crap. And we run to the next door and we bang on the door. And the woman answers the door, and thank God they let us in, called the cops. I'll never forget it. She was decorating a Christmas tree, and she was fixing lights, and she said, do you guys know how to fix Christmas lights? I'm like, lady, we're just in a robbery. You know what I mean? I'm not fixing your nickel Christmas lights, right? So anyway, the cops came, but, so I dodged a bullet. Almost.
Literally, figuratively.
Yep, exactly, from that. But it was just kind of an interesting story to tell, because not many people's been in the story, but not once have I been in that situation, but twice. Me and my daughter were at the mall one time. Part two, we were at the mall one time and we're leaving the mall. And all of a sudden, here comes all these cops just pulling up, right? We're pulling up. And now she's like a young adult, right? And we're just there shopping around and we're leaving. And we see these cops come. Well, this guy comes running out of the mall. Apparently, he was trying to rob something in the mall. Who does that? You know what I mean? Why are you robbing a store in the mall? There's so many people in there. So he goes into the mall to try to rob a store. He runs out, and they're like drawing guns on him. And my daughter's like pulling me down. Mom, get behind this car, get behind this car. And I'm like, where the hell? What's going on? And she's like, oh my God, you're going to get shot. So anyway, apparently I'm not real smart according to my daughter in life situations when it's a dangerous situation in the real world in the public. So, apparently that's not a strength of mine. So yeah, dodging bullets apparently is a strength of mine because I haven't been shot yet, but I've been in the situation twice. So there you go.
There you go. Lightning has struck twice. And for those of you that missed it, you were playing Pac-Man, and so you can all Google Pac-Man.
That's right. Yeah, but like, what does that mean? What is she doing? What is she playing?
I'm not even going to try to explain Pac-Man.
Funny story. I have a Pac-Man machine in my basement right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sure do.
That's a collector's item.
Yeah, sure do. Yeah.
All right, Matt, we have a rock and roller. We have a professional crime witness. What do you got for us?
Well, I feel like Wanda needs to take a closer look at places she hangs out at.
And maybe the people she hangs out with. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
right.
Bunch of shitty characters. All right.
I would say probably, given the sports nut that I am, and I mentioned earlier, I've been, and something most folks wouldn't know about me, I've been super fortunate, and I have a good friend who I've known coincidentally, who I met in the Tampa area about 30 years ago when I started this job, and he went on to work in various roles across the National Football League, and so with help from him and by stroke of luck, I've been fortunate enough to attend 6 Super Bowls.
Wow.
Wow.
In six different cities over the years.
Wow, one less than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Way to go, Matt. My husband.
2 of those involved Patriot wins, so that was an
Fantastic.
extra bonus.
My husband will be very jealous.
That's amazing. Wow. I guess it pays to have friends in strategic places. Right.
It does. It also costs a lot too, but that's okay.
Oh, well, you guys, this is a fun group. I hate to have to sign off, but we have 2 questions left. We'll make it kind of make this a next question kind of a speed round. Just real quick answer comes to mind, and advice for newcomers. We'll do Matt, Rory, and Wanda. Just for a newcomer in the industry, or maybe someone who's been in the industry for a little while and started off, or you guys started off, and they may want to advance. What's your advice?
I think my speed round answer would be soak in everything you possibly can. And regardless of what your role is, the more you know, the more you learn early on, the more value you'll bring to your whatever organization you're working for.
Perfect. Thank you.
After you've soaked that in, you as a sponge then drain it out. And that is, share what you know. Because I think when you become a resource for people, you gain trust, you gain, respect, and, people will go to you for help. And I think that, there's not really benefit to being the only person who knows how to do something, right? So I think just sharing what you know is really important, and I'll leave it there.
I think that's great advice. My experience is that the least valuable person in an organization is the person that keeps knowledge of themselves and refuses to share it. And they think they create value by being a single point of failure. So you don't want that to happen. And Wanda, how about you? What would your advice be?
Very much, very quickly, very much the same thing. Learn, just ask questions, see if you can sit in other departments, learn what they do. It helps you understand how a lot of times people will make a decision and not realize how it's affecting this other department. So it makes you more valuable in making your decisions. Ask if you can sit in on meetings if you're allowed, right? Listen to them talking, even if you're just a fly on the wall, just listen to them talking and just absorb that power. And then to jump on what Rory said as well, just share it, share what you have.
That's great advice. I think that this panel makes that so clear. You want to be a sponge, you want to ask questions, you want to absorb, you want to learn, and then you want to be valuable to the organization by sharing it. So that's just great advice. We really appreciate it. Time goes quick when you're having fun. We're sort of at the come to the end of things, but as is our custom, we play the last word. And each of you will have the opportunity to say the floor will be yours. Who wants to go first or last? Anyone? Jump in. Let you decide.
I'll jump in first, Les. I'd just take a minute and thank you for the opportunity for us to be here together. To your point, it's always fun to share information, to learn new things about industry colleagues. I'm going to spend the rest of my evening Googling Rory's name and see if I can find those rock bands. But I think for me, the last word comes down to what we talked about earlier. And as far as the screening industry goes, and it's the people. I'm grateful to be here with you guys. I'm grateful to work regularly with Rory and Wanda and really just collectively try to share the information that we've all been able to gain over the last, 30 something years and to provide a medium for folks to learn and to raise issues that help us all as far as specifically the Access Committee goes.
I appreciate that. Rory, do you want to go next? We'll end with Wanda.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to be in this esteemed group who've been invited to Behind the Screens. And I just feel super lucky to be working with the folks that I get to work with. Matt and Wanda are my dudes, and I get to bother them every couple weeks. On our subcommittee. I just want to say thanks, and I think it's just a great, experience.
Fantastic. And Wanda, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks the same. And we actually do have a text message trail. We're called the Access Dudes. So he's not wrong about that. We are the dudes. I think for me, that's just the same thing. I think our industry is aging a little bit. We have a lot of industry veterans, a lot of people aging. So at the last conference, I think there was definitely some newer faces. So it's great to see new people coming in. And just, I think with, as we're aging, somebody's got to carry the torch. We are sharing it, but be kind. Just at the end of the day, just be kind. And if there's something that you can do to help, please do so as we kind of beat the drum on that this session. But I think that, a lot of people they're scared, they're learning. Just be kind. It'll come back to you eventually, but just be kind because we've all been there. Just remember that. We've all been a newbie in this space. Hopefully most making more than, me and Matt did first starting out, but it's okay. But we've all been a newbie. So just be kind. I think it goes a long way and you make people's day, smile, be kind. So, and thank you so much, Les, for having us. It's been a great time. And these guys, always have a great time with them and feel like we vibe very pretty good off of each other. So we thank you for the opportunity to come in and share all of this. So thank you very much.
Well, let me thank you for being here. We have Wanda Hess, Matt O'Connor, Rory Bogdon. Great panel. Our industry veterans are backbone of the background screening world and fantastic shares and some great stories. So I really hope people see this episode and have a chance to listen to all of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this ends this episode of Behind the Screens, our conversation with the background screening pros, but there will be future episodes. Once again, our thanks to Barry Nixon and the Pre-Employment Directory as our premium sponsor. Thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next time on Behind the Screens. Thank you. All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.